Hello, and welcome to the first of two installments of a fantastic interview with Miss Kaitlyn Osborn. These two segments will dig deeper into the life of someone who works with and has experienced Tacos4Life on a personal level. Kaitlyn, go ahead and say hi.
Hi.
Kaitlyn, you work for Tacos4Life, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm a kitchen manager at our store in Conway on Oak Street, so it's the first Tacos4Life.
How long have you worked at the restaurant?
I've been working there for over a year now. It's getting close to a year and a half. But I started last May of 2014, just 3 weeks before we opened the doors.
Wow, almost a year and a half. In that time, how has working for Tacos4Life impacted your life?
The job itself has impacted me in a lot of ways. It's impacted me from a professional standpoint just because working as a kitchen manager, I'm in charge of people and leading a team, just helping individuals reach small goals as well as big goals, whether that be just throughout one shift or a week or over a longer stretch of time as we work as a team just to meet our key performance indicators as a restaurant. But it's impacted me in that way, just growing me as a leader. I've learned a lot about organization and management, how to have hard conversations, as well as to just constantly encourage people and see them fulfilled in their job. But it's also impacted me in other ways as well. First of all, I've just made a ton of friends. It's a great way to meet people from all different backgrounds and walks of life, people who I maybe otherwise wouldn't have met working in a restaurant. And it's also just been a great way to learn more just about the state of the world. Before I worked for Tacos4Life, I just didn't have any idea just how big of a problem world hunger is. It's something that you hear about, and you hear about childhood malnutrition and starvation, but I didn't realize just how staggering the numbers really are, but on top of that, also how solvable of a problem world hunger is. The World Food Program, which is based in the UK, calls hunger the world's most solvable problem because the world actually produces enough for each person to eat 2,700 calories per day. And if you think about little kids, they don't need that many calories a day. A lot of Americans don't need that many calories per day. But that is what our world is producing each and every day. So the more you think about it, starvation is just a distribution problem. It's not that we don't have enough food to go around. It's just that the food isn't going around, so to speak. So I've learned about a lot about the world and just the way that different communities deal with food problems. I've learned a lot about different relief agencies and organizations, but I've also just been able not just to hear about those as numbers and statistics, but for that to also make a difference for me, just as the numbers become less numbers and more names and more faces. Right. Our restaurants always send our meals that we raise to the same communities year after year, so we're not just throwing food out there into the abyss, so to speak, but they're going back to the same community, so the kids are getting fed consistently. It's not just, if our restaurant raises 100,000 meals, that's not necessarily 100,000 kids who are getting fed, but that's a large number of kids who are getting fed over the course of a year.
Have you actually had the opportunity to experience these care points and what Tacos4Life is doing in these communities?
Yeah, actually, I was able to go to Swaziland this year. I went in May, and it was incredible. We were there for 10 days, and we just got to tour 6 different care points, all in Swaziland. And it really did blow me away because I don't know exactly what my expectations were going in, but I think that I expected just to see a lot of sadness and a lot of despair and to feel like a really heavy burden to come back to the States and to work even harder to raise more meals. And to a certain extent, I do feel that sense of urgency. But really in Swaziland, more than feeling burdened, I just felt encouraged because looking around, you just see these kids and they're vibrant and they're having fun and they're growing and they're learning. And was so fun to get to talk to them. A lot of them are learning English in school, so we actually got to hear their stories. And they were so fun to play with. We learned their games and some of their songs. But then some of them, especially the older ones, the more that you would talk to them, you would realize that these kids have gone through a lot. They've been forced to really grow up in some ways that even I myself as a 25-year-old, I've never dealt with some of the things that these kids are dealing with. But hearing their stories, it was just amazing to see how much they've been through and yet the hope that they have. And just that really gave me a new perspective on the care points. Just seeing that this isn't a place of sorrow or of loneliness, but this is a place of hope, and this is a place of new beginnings. So that was probably my biggest takeaway being there, was seeing that the kids might come for the first time because of the food, because they can get a meal, but they keep going back because of their relationships. And the food is important in certain ways. The food it's the cornerstone of it all. It's like what brings kids there in the first place, but it's not the end-all be-all. It's just the starting point and just a whole dynamic expansion of growth that these kids get to undergo. It starts with food, but it goes into education, it goes into biblical teaching, and so much more beyond that, and professional skills. A lot of the kids get to learn how to do lots of cool things with their hands. They get to learn really practical things that are lucrative skills in their community that can give them a great job. So yeah, it was cool for me to see kind of for the first time what my work here in Arkansas is allowing to happen. And even though I'm just a small part of that, that it's setting something in motion that is really, really cool to see unfold.
Thank you so much, Kaitlyn, for this fantastic first segment. Stay tuned for the second, where we'll be hearing personal stories from the time in Swaziland.